Hey YouTubers, and what is going on? Welcome back to another episode here on ESGNet of Sports Gamer Soapbox Talk Podcast. This is episode 17. Thank you, welcome back, and hopefully you're having a great weekend. I know I am. I'll get to why I'm having a great weekend here in this episode. Uh, got some personal news from myself here. I'm actually going to my first MLS soccer game, Major League Soccer, in Kansas City, Missouri, or I should say Kansas City, Kansas. Excuse me, this weekend, and I'll talk more about that. I might even have some photos here for you guys here up on the channel. I'll probably post it on the my what do you call the Facebook page for ESGNet, and also on Facebook, or also on Twitter and Tumblr. But yeah, I want to have this episode here this week. This is not a big thing going on. There's not much going on this week, with the exception of some more preseason games in the NFL. We also we got some news in the NFL. We got actually a kicker who got a kicker that's involved in he's not going to be seeing his first game. We got a link on that story down below. But really and truly, this week there's not much going on except for in the world of wrestling. So this is pretty much a wrestling show. We have some news on two WWE wrestlers who are actually a couple in real life. They got caught in some news here this week over cheating when it comes to doping. Also, we got some really crazy Olympic news. I don't know if you guys heard, but Ryan Lochte, what a damn liar, really. I mean, seriously, I've had a theory along with some other people with the same kind of theory about his issue that he has. Also, I got some news on Gabby Douglas. She's been in the news, of course. I think we kind of touched on it last time, but this happened all in the same within this week since the last previous episode that we had here. Also, again, this episode is going to be pretty much talking about the WWE pay-per-view this weekend. There's actually two big pay-per-views. We got the NXT Brooklyn 2 takeout, and then you got the one of the big four shows of the year, that is WWE SummerSlam, happened in Brooklyn, New York. And I know a lot of people are going to be there's a lot of things going on this weekend in New York when it comes to the WWE. There's so many fanfare stuff going on. I know some YouTubers that are actually going there to go check out the WWE 2K17 game. Also, yeah. So going back in wrestling news, there's some news about this deal between Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. We'll get into a little bit of that, and also, of course, like I said, we're really going to review the card of both the pay-per-views coming up this Saturday and Sunday there on the network. So let's go ahead and get kicked off here. I did talk about this somewhat. It was just a quick little story. There's a link down below about the kicker, Josh Brown, and the reason why he's going to be missing the first game of the season. You guys can read about that down below. We'll talk about more about that next week here on the show, or at least try to. But let's go ahead and get to this big story that I want to talk about, the Soapbox issue of the day, or of the week. There's two stories out of the Olympics. One of them, of course, being Gabby Davis. She's been winning gold left and right, and the young lady is really just. I'm not a huge fan of gymnastics. I know there's a lot of people out there that love this. They get to see it every 4 years, and there's so much these young women. I mean, beautiful young women put on a great show, and seriously, they do some serious training. People think they just do flips and tumbles and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, there's some passion that you have to have passion to do this sport. Um, I know I've had friends growing up that were in gymnastics. They were in it from a very young age. I know my mother, she was in gymnastics for a long time there, and she just kind of got out of it because she didn't want to take it to the next level. She wasn't, I mean, she had the, I guess, athletic skill to do it, but it just came down to that just wasn't her passion. I'm not saying she was going to be a next Olympian, but she enjoyed it. Matter of fact, we were talking about this when we were watching some of it this past week, and I didn't know that about her. So I thought it was pretty cool and whatnot. Because she was telling me some of the things about it. I'm like, okay, you never mentioned this before, like, but these young ladies do some serious training, and I just really hope that a lot of people take, the Olympics, like I said, come every 4 years, and really give these young women just the praise they should get, especially if we're putting so much work into their skill and what they do. Because it's not, I mean, all these Olympic athletes, this is something they've worked for all their lives. It's something they dreamed to do. And I want to just, congratulate them. Not to mention, let's go ahead and to go on. I really think it's sick, and I'm really so tired of what's been going on with the issue of her, as that people are just getting upset because she didn't put her hand over her heart when she won the recent, I think it was an all-around event for the team. It was a team event, and a lot of people were giving her a lot of flack on the internet, mainly on on Twitter, saying some really ugly, nasty stuff. And what gets me is a lot of these people had these, weird ass avatars or whatever on their page. I'm thinking, like, okay, if you have the cojones to come out and say this on Twitter, and you don't want to show your face, you show a picture of your cat or another loved one or something like that, then don't post it. I mean, that to me, that's one of the reasons why I hate social media in some aspects, because you can create anyone can create a bogus non-valid, just just a Twitter account or a Facebook account, and you be completely anonymous. Don't have to show your face. You don't have to say who you are, and you just can say whatever you want. And people, which I think it's hilarious, because this past Thursday, unfortunately, we lost a great show on Comedy Central. They recently announced this past Monday that they were going to cancel the very good show. I think it's a very well written, well thought out show, and I recently just found out that he's the executive producer. I know, at least I've heard rumors saying they're going to try to fight to keep that show on, and that is the nightly show with Larry Wilbur. And they did a good job here of talking about this, with Gabby and Davis and everything, how people are just getting out of control and getting all crazy about this. And I mean, honestly, this is ridiculous, because we just got a dumbass who just recently, and I apologize for people who are offended with my language and whatnot, but there's a dumbass down there, Ryan Lochte, who just recently just left the country of Brazil, and supposedly was held up by a Brazilian gang or whatever, armed robber or whatever, and he just recently left the country there, and they're trying to question, they're trying to find out that, if this story is real or not, and they've already detained 3 of the other swimmers there, U.S. swimmers, to find out about what's going on. Is this a true story? Because if it is, they want to investigate it, and they want to bring whoever did this to justice. and no one's talking about that. No one's getting outraged about that because now we have evidence showing that he lied about this because other people they've talked to witnesses, they've seen people that have maybe were witnesses and realized what was going on and seen it and or were there. There's been witnesses saying that they were just drunk and having too much of a good time, and maybe was just trying to create a story from nothing to make themselves look good because maybe they were rejected from a bar or a nightclub. There's other theories about this. Allegedly there's a story made up by Lochte because he only made the story up because there was so much press going on with Michael Phelps, who, by the way, just recently won a gold in events, and of course Lochte in second place behind him, and he, of course Ryan's making these stories up because he's tired of hearing about Michael Phelps. So yeah, I mean, I think it's so bad that if an individual like that is getting away with this kind of stuff, and he looks like a saint, and it starts off being a saint, and then now he's looking crooked, and then we're outraged by Gabby, and she's down there not committing falsifying story that something that didn't happen at all, and she's been down there kicking ass and winning gold. Now, is it a race thing? Yeah, maybe, probably, possibly, but I'm so tired of people online want to come on online, and it's just not on Twitter, it's not on Facebook, it's also here on YouTube, want to make issues about stuff. And I'm a type of person, I'm like, okay, fine, if you're gonna make issues about it, okay, fine, do so, but be intelligent about it. Don't just have this wild tangent of thinking you can just say whatever you want to say. Have some proof of it. Send a link or article or tell me where I can go to read about this or whatever. Anyway, the whole Gabby Davis thing, people were just outraged because she didn't put her hand over her heart. Okay, you realize the young woman just got done doing this big exercise of tumbling and all this kind of stuff, and she is worn out. I mean, yeah, did it look bad that she didn't do that? Okay, fine, but they say a picture tells 1,000 words, and yeah, it did look, did it look bad? Yeah, but honestly, the girl was tired as hell. She just won a gold medal, and people are just making something out of nothing. At least we're winning right now. We're currently winning in the gold, the gold count and the overall medal count. What really makes me mad is people saying negative stuff and saying things they shouldn't be saying, and then they get mad because people are calling them racist. Well, when you make a statement like that, talking about her, how nappy her hair is or whatever, talking about her features as a black woman, you made it personal. You made it racial. So, by all means, by definition, you're a racist. I don't know how else to tell you this. So anyway, but yeah, again, I want to congratulate the ladies there, all the ladies there, in the gymnastics there, doing a great job, and hopefully the team winning more gold. Our men in basketball right now, I know Team USA again came to a close game there as of this past week there again. And again, I just hope that they can get their stuff together. I know on another note with the basketball team, I know LeBron James has made a comment this past week saying he wished he was there to play. And when I read that, I'm like, you had the opportunity to play on that team. You decided not to because of the whole Zika thing, which I have nothing against people that were going to be going to the games and made the conscious decision, about their health, and that should be the first and foremost. But now all of a sudden you're regretting it. Well, that's on you. You made the choice. Now live with it. And you thinking that, if you were there, you would be able to help the team out. Well, that might be true. We don't know, but that's why you play the game to to put yourself out there again. You didn't go down there because of the health issues that were going on, which so far we haven't heard. I mean, there's been even more stories going on because of the image of the Olympics and, of course, the weird lime green water. I don't know, that's still a little offsetting. But anyway, yeah, that's just that's just that is just a whole nother story right there. So going back to the Ryan Lochte thing, I want to talk about that, and I want to see what you guys. I mean, down below, let me know in the comment section what you guys think about that whole issue of Ryan Lochte and his thing going on with that. It's okay now. In this, according to some reports down in Rio, there was an article. I believe it was actually, it was one of the big. Big? I think it was the New York Times. They recently had an article about it, and were saying about the story and how it does not match up to what a lot of the eyewitnesses said and whatnot. Now, a lot of the eyewitnesses there say that Lochte and his friends were, they were just got done celebrating. Michael Phelps won the gold medal for their team in a relay, and of course, police say the security guards say the security guards said that there was no issues there at the Olympic Games. They're in the athletic Olympic Park there where the athletes stay at, and there was no robber. Pointed gun. Of course, Ryan Lochte said there was a gun involved in all this between him and the robber. And I mean, honestly, this he's trying to make himself, to me, he's trying to make himself look like a hero, in some capacity, but in reality, he's really not, because I think he's tired of being overshadowed by Michael Phelps. And I was thinking this as soon as this story came out, and I've seen I've seen pictures of him from the last Olympic Games there in London, and some interviews and stuff like that. He's been involved, and I'm telling you guys, I was not. I had the first thing came in my head is like, he is jealous of Michael Phelps. He is straight up jealous of Michael Phelps and what Michael Phelps has done here so far in the Olympics. There's a quote here in the article that says, after watching the videotape and hearing testimony from witnesses, the Brazilian police have determined the incident involving damage to the bathroom door at the gas station where the swimmer stopped in the hours of Sunday morning on the way back to Olympic Village from the park. And I think that's what they're probably they're embarrassed about. There's other rumors saying that maybe Michael Phelps was getting too much attention at the club and everything. And as far as I know, Michael Phelps is, I don't know. I know him and his wife, they just, recently had a child together. So I don't really believe Michael Phelps is going to a Brazilian club and just having all the ladies surround him and stuff like that. I mean, they have a newborn son who's been at all his races and stuff, and I don't see him doing that with his wife right there in Rio. I mean, I don't see her doing. I don't see him doing that or whatever. I do see Ryan Lochte being maybe pissed off and upset and mad about that he's not getting the press that he thinks he should be getting. And it's already been said that Michael Phelps, he said it himself that there was a good chance that he was not going to be at the 2020 games there in Tokyo. So, I guess Ryan Lochte could say he's going to be dominant in that Olympic race. But with the way how this is going right now, I don't see him. I don't see him being because. This makes him. This makes us, the people of the United States, look bad. Going on to say here about the incident, they have posted here It says that at the gas station, the swimmers went to the bathroom. In the process, according to the account by investigators, damage has been done to the bathroom door, and a discussion ensued between the manager, or excuse me, the discussion ensued with the manager and a security guard. Someone at the gas station called the police. By the time the police arrived at the scene, the swimmers were gone. Witnesses, including a person who identified or offered to translate for the swimmers, said that they paid money to the manager before leaving. So I'm thinking this. I'm thinking that maybe Ryan and his buddies, mainly Ryan, were belligerently drunk, were being so-called Americans, and I have air quotes because of course you can't see me, and the dumbasses figured, well, saying, well, I'm American, I'm an Olympic swimmer, I'm a medalist, and because of course you can't say a really gold. Well, I mean, I guess in the relays, he's a gold medalist, but overall, he's always in second place of Michael Phelps. I think he might be, they were saying all that stuff, a typical privileged white males, because I know, growing up, I knew quite a few of these guys like this that were that way, and they thought that their world was supposed to be, they can demand anything, and the world's just supposed to produce it. And they got, they were roughhousing, getting rowdy, breaking things, doing just stupid, immature things to that store. Store owner did not appreciate it and threatened them that he was going to take legal action to them or the police. And they got, something, maybe the manager may say something, and of course he got the security guard, and next thing you know it, they were getting scared because they realized, oh, we're in a foreign country. We could easily be picked up and taken and not be heard of ever again. Because it is Brazil. I mean, there are cartels. There are, I'm sure that guy that the manager probably knows. He maybe has a cousin or a friend that is part of the cartel or part of a local gang or something, and he could possibly do something to these guys, and they know it. So they offered money to pay for the door and all that kind of stuff, and then got back to the Olympic Village, and then just came up with realized they were being I'm gonna say bamboozled, but were hoodwinked into paying for that door and everything because they know that their lives were probably going to be endangered, and decided to spread the word around like, hey, well, we got held up by this guy, blah 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 blah. He threatened us. We had no choice. We're athletes, and we're in this foreign country, and da 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 da. Basically, just come up with all the stereotypical things you could think of for a United States traveler, visitor of South America, and think of all the stereotypical things that happen there in South America, in which, I mean, there's been stories that actually are true, that this happens to people. They extorted by some. As far as I know, I haven't heard anything during these Olympic Games, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Just let me know give me a link or something if you guys, there's a story out there about people being extorted or whatnot because they're foreign and they assume they have money. But that is my theory of why Ryan Lochte is lying. And of course now, he probably told his mom, and his mom told him, go talk to the police and blah blah blah. And he probably did that to kind of make himself look good and verify the story. And then of course the media down there in South America, or there in Brazil, found out. The Olympic Committee found out about it, and then he realized his lies getting out of control, and And of course, you can't keep it because you tell one lie, you got to tell six more just to cover up that one lie that you told, and it just snowballed until this crazy fiasco that we're in currently now. So, uh, and again, people, when you travel overseas, do not think that just because you're overseas and you're American, that the rules that happen or the laws and rules that apply here apply there, because they don't. I just recently got done watching a show on Netflix. It was called Canadian Border Control or Border Patrol or something like that. It's a really interesting show. It takes place in a couple of different places there on the U.S. Canada border. There, and it's pretty interesting, but that's what kind of reminded me, because these people on there on the show are thinking like, well, I'm from the United States, blah blah, why can I not get in? And they tell them reason why they can't get in, which are reasonable. I mean, these are laws from the country of Canada. These are their laws. They're telling them why they can't let this person in, because of maybe this person who are trying to get in from the United States is trying to flee from the United States. They have felonies or some kind of convictions held upon them, and they don't want those people in the country because they have to go through that whole paperwork of extraditing them back to the United States for whatever reason. And just in simple fact, it's Canada. It's another country. They don't have to let you in the country at all. You could have Acme or whatever on your face, and like no, can't let you in. It's a national security issue. They can come up with anything. It's their it's their country. They have the rules and regulations that protects their people in that country. But I'm assuming that the whole, and then another thing is, there are pictures that show some actual footage and some video footage of them laughing and everything like that, and it's like, you wouldn't be laughing or you wouldn't be in good spirits if you were just held up by these thugs there in Brazil. You would not be laughing and carrying on and all that. And again, I just think that this is just another proven fact of Americans think they can go overseas and they can just do whatever they want because they're American, and whatever the laws and rules are here in the United States, that applies to being over there. No, just because you're in the Olympic Games, that don't mean anything. You trust me. If you don't know your Olympic history about things that are going on in other countries and Americans being held up, or not just Americans but other people held up, okay, go back to the 1960s during the Munich Games. Go back to that and see how that all came about. There's movies about that. There's books about that. That was some serious crap. That was some, serious shit that went down, and people lost their lives. So, yeah, I'm so glad so far we have not had those kind of. I mean, so far since the Atlanta Games, we've had we had the Athens. When they went, they had the Athens Games. They had, and this includes even this Winter Olympics. I mean, there's been so many. There's been that bombing since '96. That's the only thing that's happened. Serious that's happened. We've had to worry about. Now, yeah, we had China. They had their issues with their pollution and everything like that. And so far we haven't had a loss of life, and I'm thankful for that, because I know watching the footage from back in the day, especially I want to say it was the 1970 games. It wasn't the 60 games. It was in the 70s. That situation with the whole people dying there and whatnot. That was a scary moment. And these games are not about politics. People are trying to make it into that, and it shouldn't be. It's about the games. The Olympic Games are all about being united as a world, and showing to the world that we can unite and come together in a common denominator, and that is being the spirit of athletics, spirit of playing games. And I just recently recently just picked up a copy, or actually got the copy from the library of the movie called Race. It's about the story of Jesse Owens and his what he had to deal with in the context of what was going on during the 1936 games in Berlin. It was you guys haven't watched the movie, go check it out. It's a really great film. Jason Sudeikis, I mean, he's a comedian, but he can also be a great serious actor. I thought he was so good in that movie. And I can't think of the young man right now, what his name is, but the young man that played as Jesse Owens did a great job of that. As a matter of fact, I read a biography of Jesse Owens just a couple of years ago, and what he had to go through and what was going on during that time, because it was a tough issue for him. I mean, does he go over to there and play in the games, being just, and have to deal with the discrimination that was going on over there because of, there's, a lot of they didn't have too many of the German Jews that were living in that country be a part of the games. They had the people that were a part of the games had to be German descent. They had, blue eye, blonde hair, athletic type of people. And of course, Jesse Owens being a black man going over there, a lot of black people in this country said, "Don't go over there." Protest. Because there's Jews there being mistreated, taken away, many being killed, even that early in the war. And it's no different than what black people are going through in the States. And I thought the movie did a great job focusing on that issue, because do you go over to the games and just boycott it, or do you go over there and prove and show them why that all people should be allowed to play in the games? People that want to join, want to be a part of the Olympics, should have that right to join in the games. And I thought that was such a great job. I want to continue on with this Ryan Lochte story here, but it goes on to say in the article, it says that, quote, "They pull out their guns. They told the swimmers to get down on the ground. They got down on the ground. I refuse." Oh, this is what Ryan Lochte saying. "I refuse. I was like, did we do anything wrong? So are we going to go down on the ground?" And then the guy pulled out his gun. He cocked it, put it on my forehead, and he said, "Get down. I'm going to put..." and then he goes on to say that he put his hands up in the air. I was like, whatever. He took our money and wallets and he left his cell phone and his credentials to, of course, get back in the Olympic Village. To me, I'm sorry. I mean, personally, I've never been held up, and thank God, I've never had issues with being robbed or anything. I've had my stuff stolen out of my dorm room a couple years ago when I was in school, but I've never had a full a armed robbery happen to me. And I want to say the reason why is probably because I'm a heavy set black guy, and they're not gonna sit there and mess with me. So, I mean, intimidation factor, yeah, on my side, yes, thank you. I know people that have had this happen to them, or had their house burglarized while they were in the house. But you're not gonna sit there and tell me that you're gonna say you're gonna you're not gonna have a banter between you and the so-called armed robber. I don't see that happening, especially to him. He's a swimmer. He, to me, is not a type of person that would try to. I mean, because honestly, I mean, he looks like a douche. To be really frank and just blunt about it, he looks like a douche. He looks like some of the guys I knew in high school, and even in college. You're not going to sit here and just say, "Oh, okay, whatever, blah, blah, blah." I'm sorry. That's not going to happen. You're not going to. And, I know the guys, I don't know if you guys follow them here on YouTube, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys do. ETC, they had a recent update on these videos, and they were just cracking up about this. It's like, There's no way in hell that this story, the way that Ryan Lochte is telling this story to the press and everything, there's no way in hell that you are this happened. There's no way. There's no way. And again, I think that he's just doing this because he's upset. He's mad. He's not getting the attention that he thought he was going to get here at the Rio Games. And I mean, honestly, is he surprised that he's not getting this attention? He shouldn't be, because he knows that Michael Phelps is going to be down there and he's going to win these games. He's going to win gold. He's going to bring out gold. Now, since Michael Phelps has said, "Hey, I'm not going to show up in these games anymore." Well, you know what? 2020, when it comes around, and you're still be able to, still want to be able to swim, and at that be invited. Then 2020 games could be all about you. To me, he's just a 100% douchebag. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, he's just a douche. And I think his hair is now colored platinum now, like a platinum color. Even more douchier. Like, okay, seriously? Like, yeah. Anyway. But yeah, I'll leave a link there. I'll leave an actual link to the episode of ETC where they talk about it, and I'll leave some other links to what's going on that one. But yeah, it's just it's ridiculous how how douchey this guy is making himself to be and whatnot. And I think it's just a shame that he has to go down that route here to be noticed. I mean, it's crazy. So, all right, that's it for that. We'll move on here. Let's get into pro wrestling. I think I spent a little too much time on that story, but it just of course that's my thing for this week. That was my soapbox of the week of him. I'm sure this story is not going to be done yet, because I mentioned that he is now in the United States. There's 3 other swimmers that were involved in this that supposedly got held up. They're been detained in Brazil. They've been forced to give up their passports, and they're not be able to leave the country of Brazil there until this matter is over with. But Ryan Lochte, he got lucky. He got out of the country, and now he is back home in the U.S. Now, I know what they're going to do about him. I don't know if he's going to be extradited back. But I'm sure that we'll hear more about this here in the future. And then eventually, those 3 other guys, if they're stuck down there, they're going to say, yeah, that all that stuff that he said, that did not happen at all. So it's going to make him look even more worse. Now, my comparison is, who's more douchier? A girl that did not put her hand over her heart and say the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem, or a dude that made up a story about the host country and making him and all Americans look bad. Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to pro wrestling news. Head up to the Scourge Circle. This is a really disturbing story. There's a link down below for you guys. I don't know if you guys know, but Alberto Del Rio and, of course, Paige are a real-life couple in the WWE. But this past week, it was announced there on Facebook, their Facebook pages, and also on the WWE website, saying that the two were involved in a doping issue, and they will be suspended for 30 days. So, a lot of people are wondering, for one, where has Paige been? We have not seen her on television. We have not seen her in any of the storyline, of course, right now. I believe she was drafted to Raw, and so we haven't seen her on there since the draft. And a lot of people were speculating that maybe there was an injury involved, and she was just going to be taking some time off from wrestling. I know also, too, I think she's involved in a project for WWE Films. So that could be another reason why. But now we found out this past week that the reason why she has not been on TV is because she's involved in doping. It was said that her and Alberto Del Rio were two individuals who recently just did not pass their wellness test, and of course that means they're going to be suspended for 30 days. So won't see either one of them on television for 30 days. And it got me wondering. I was like, what is going on? We talked about this a couple weeks ago with the announcement of Brock Lesnar getting in trouble. Before that, we saw that not Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, who got in trouble, and of course had to drop the title there at Money in the Bank. He got in trouble for doping, and I'm like, what is this fascination with these wrestlers doing this? I thought we got past this. There was rumors going around in the late 80s, even in the 90s there, that a lot of wrestlers were doping in wrestling. And that's what made wrestling at that time, people did not really care for it. I mean, if you were a wrestling fan, you were pretty much, in the closet, you didn't really, you really didn't, when people say, oh, do you watch wrestling? Oh, no, I don't watch it. That stuff's fake. It's not real. These guys, all they do is just pump steroids and make themselves look, all big and bad. But really, truly, they don't do anything. In some instances, yeah, there were some guys like that. But in most instances, most of the wrestlers back then were kind of, there were some in shape, but there were some, a lot of them were just out of shape, out of shape guys that were, had some pretty good freakishly strength, it was just raw power and able just to toss guys around and just, put on a decent show. And I'm kind of just now shaking my head here. I'm like, oh man, not someone else that, especially with these two, I really respect them, especially with Paige. She's gone through so much. She's done so much in her early career. And matter of fact, she's just now turned 24. And she is one of the youngest women on that roster there for the women's division. I cannot believe it. I was so I was frustrated. I'm like, no, this cannot be real. Like, why are people saying this? Why? But it happened to be real, and I just hope that they can get themselves together, and they can get themselves clean here. It's sad to see those two, especially, and they, out of all things, are a couple, so it almost makes you think that maybe they're helping each other out, getting the whatever they were using and whatnot. And I don't understand why they would need that, because Alberto Real, he's a former he's a former amateur and pro wrestler. He's also a former MMA star. He could have went to the Olympics a couple of years ago, but the country of Mexico didn't have the money to send a lot of their Olympics, their amateur athletes. So he went ahead and went to the Pan Am Games and won there. And it seems like he's a really talented, athletic guy. What I've heard from a lot of people. But again, we don't know why they did it. And we'll probably never know why, the true reason why they do that kind of stuff. But hopefully this will be a lesson that they'll be able to learn and turn their careers around. So hopefully they, get themselves together here. And especially Alberto Del Rio. You just recently came back. It hasn't even been a year since you've been back. And you got this now on your plate now. Because beforehand, you remember, he came back in October of this past year after he was fired and let go because of an incident between him and a creative writer or creative director or something like that. WWE had some issues between the two of them, and he basically manhandled the poor guy. And WWE had no choice but to release Alberto Del Rio. This is about the same time as, just right after CM Punk just up and left. So that was a crazy time there. So, and he was gone from the WWE for almost a year and a half, something like that. So, all right, let's go ahead and get to some really funny news in pro wrestling. I'm gonna leave a link down below in the description. Of course, this past, this wasn't last week, it was the week before, so 2 weeks ago. They're on the WWE Network. Of course, the big event that's happening on there is the Cruiserweight Classic, and there's been some great matches there. I feel bad because I haven't been talking about it, and I need to get into talking about it. Of course, the second week of it, I didn't get to watch, or second and third week. So I've been last week and the week before. So far, I haven't watched it this week yet, but I've went back and watched actually week 2 and 3. Great matches, I will say, especially week 3, the match there between Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Guerrero, or better known as Johnny Wrestling. Great match there. Of course, those two are going for the NXT Tag Team Championships, which are held by the first ever 2-time champions by the name of the Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Waller. But recently here, Johnny and Ciampa have been putting up these really funny, hilarious. They're called Glory Bombs, and they are they are hilarious. You guys got to check it out. If you get a chance to check them out, it's a funny video meme or video they put up these video bombs of Bobby Roode, Bobby Lashley, jeez, Bobby Roode, there in NXT, behind the scenes and stuff like that, and it's very hilarious. I'll leave a link down below to that YouTube video, courtesy of WWE, but it's a hilarious video. My buddy of mine, he sent me it a couple nights ago. He's like, "Rashad, you have to watch. This is hilarious." And they're like, no more than almost like Vine videos they put up, and they are hilarious. Like, it goes so well with Bobby Roode's new intro or new theme music for the WWE. So yeah, definitely check those out. It's funny, and this is one thing I love to see wrestlers, get jabbing, poking fun at each other, in good spirit or not. Just it's especially in good spirit. I mean, because you can tell that there are some really good friendships there, and when you see stuff like that, that when they put on a match, it's gonna be a really good match between those two individuals or those group of individuals. And even though Bobby Roode's not facing those two or anything like that, I just thought it was hilarious and a good way to really get people excited and interest into these two guys, because Ciampa, I remember him back in his Ring of Honor days. He was, the what do they call it? Something Sicilian. He was, he freaked me out. Like, this guy is freaking nuts. He's like a serial killer. I think they call him the Sicilian serial wrestler or whatever, something like that. He was nuts, and he put out some great matches. I think he held the television title for quite a while there, and he had some good matches with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and several others. But the Vine, or the little videos they have, video bombing there, they're hilarious. And not to mention, if you guys have not seen that episode of them fighting to move on to the second round in the Cruiserweight Classic, I'm telling you, it's a classic match right there between those two. And it had a really good ending to it and whatnot. And I'm glad that the two are still remaining as a tag team for the time being. Of course, that is going to be going on to the next story we're going to talk about, which is the NXT TakeOver pay-per-view. And they're in Brooklyn this Saturday night at 7 Central. And, of course, that was one of the big matches everyone is talking about between Ciampa Johnny and Ciampa going against the Revival. Another match is going to be another debut pay-per-view match. It's going to be between Bobby Roode and, I believe, Almas there. Those two are going to face each other for the first time one-on-one in WWE. Like I said, Bobby Roode's debut pay-per-view. He's already made his debut on NXT and had a really good promo and whatnot. And his music, it fits him perfectly. Don't get me wrong, I love his music, his theme in TNA and whatnot. But they did a great job with that theme there, and that theme now is just like kind of like burned in my brain right now. I thought it was just so hilarious in those memes with him and just him like, especially the one where he's in they're in his room and he's in bed and you can't really see what's going on, but you hear the music and you're like, okay, where is he at? And they turn the light on. He's looking at him like, are you effing kidding me? Like, I'm trying to sleep here. And they kind of look at each other like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he looks at both of them, and then they look back at him, and he's like, okay, he certifies like thumbs up. It's hilarious. I mean, it's the way how they do it. They do it so funny. It's so clever. I almost think that it's going to be something that we'll see on NXT. Just showing how badass Bobby Roode is. Another match up for the Brooklyn pay-per-view. Of course, it's a rematch between Asuka and Bayley. Number 2. This last time they met each other or faced each other were back at NXT Dallas. They're the weekend of the WrestleMania weekend. And those two will go at it here for the NXT Women's Championship as Bayley is going to go for it again, trying to see if she can be the first ever 2-time champion. And it's gonna be a very good match. I really do. I don't see them, of course, putting the title back on Bayley because of the simple fact, because right now, Bayley, people are wanting Bayley so bad. They're on the main roster. The question is, what brand is she's gonna be on? I can easily say they could probably put her on Raw, but that would be just too. To me, I think it's just too star heavy, and I think they would put her, since she's kind of like the underdog. She's kind of like a female Daniel Bryan. I think they'll end up putting her on SmackDown because eventually there will be a women's title of some sort. As far as at least I've heard on rumors on the internet and stuff, they're on SmackDown because I know SmackDown is working on having their own tag team. They got these tag teams now, and they're trying to beef up that tag team division there. So they're going to eventually bring a tag team title. I wouldn't be surprised if they have a women's title and they have their first ever, SmackDown women's champion be Bayley. That'd be a perfect person to put that title on and kind of get that going for those ladies there on the show. So I know, of course, Eva Marie, I don't know why they're trying so hard to help her out, but it's just it's not even worth it. Recently, she just had a so-called malfunction with her attire malfunction. Trying to do some kind of Janet Jackson thing where her top came off or whatever. I understand they're trying to get her to be the heel, one of the top heels there on the show, whatever. But it's just like, this is like, week number 3 that they try to have her debut on SmackDown, and it's just like, okay, we get it, we're being forced to deal with her and whatever issues she has on the roster and whatnot. And I still say she has not proven yet her talent. As far as I know, at least what I've heard on a lot of different podcasts and other things, that people are more inside the business and know the ins and outs of what's going on backstage in WWE. A lot of people are not too happy about her. A lot of the divas there are just not that are really not willing to work with her. And honestly, there's no surprise to that at all. So we'll have to see what happens next week there on SmackDown. Actually, I haven't even watched this past week's SmackDown, so I might have to go back and see how that came out to be. All right, another match there at the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. We have No Way Jose taking on Austin Aries. I'm excited about this because I get to see Aries again, and especially in this matchup against No Way Jose. And speaking of him, he's actually in one of those video bombs. It's really funny with Bobby Roode and a couple, of course, the Johnny and Ciampa in that video, and that's a really funny one too. So definitely check that out. I think there's the link I'm going to have. I think it has a collection of all of them, all the ones they've put up, had so far. They've been posted on Instagram and Facebook and all those. There's a compensation video of it, so definitely check it out. But yeah, No Way Jose. Of course, this is going to be a big pay-per-view match for him, as he's going to take on Austin Aries in a one-on-one matchup there. Of course, I think this match can go either way. No Way Jose, a lot of fans are getting behind him. You guys know how I feel about gimmicky type wrestlers. I think there's going to be something bigger for either one of these guys, depending on who's going to win. I would think they would probably it's going to probably be an Austin Aries win, because I don't think he's won a pay-per-view match yet. They're on NXT. So I assume that they're going to have him, because they got to, in some ways, they got to get him set up to be maybe the next person in line for the NXT title. Other than that, I don't see a reason why they would not let him win. Because right now, honestly, he's good enough. He should be on SmackDown or on Raw, one of the two. To me, he's been ready. He's been ready to go take on that stage, be on the main roster in there and ready to go. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's a character, someone that would be the kind of like the centerpiece for the Authority on Raw. Wanting to go on Raw and show off and be, let Seth Rollins know, hey, you were the face of the Authority at one time. Now I'm going to be the face of the Authority. And Stephanie, secretly is making deals with him and trying to set him up as the next Universal Champion, which would be a good way to really, that would be a really good way of maybe that'd be the first rivalry for Seth Rollins there, if he happens to win that title. Even also for Finn Balor if he wins it. So it'd be a good way. And that's just my theory of what I think how they should use Aries when he does get to the main roster. But like I say, he's good enough to go right now. I really truly think. I don't see why, because they have Samoa Joe, they have Bobby Roode to really support that the main title aspect of it. I don't see why they need to waste his great talent that he has, especially on the mic. There in NXT, when he can just go straight to the main roster there, or even put him on SmackDown. Of course, the main event is going to be no other than Shinsuke Nakamura going against the WWE NXT champion Samoa Joe. They're going to be taking on each other in that big matchup there, and of course, everyone is just oohing and awing about this matchup, and I'm one of them. This is definitely going to be a matchup that I'm going to be watching, as to see the King of Strong Stock take on the Mr. Pro Wrestling himself, Samoa Joe, and that's going to be a great match there. And either way, I don't see Shinsuke winning this one. I think he may end up have a shot at the NXT title somewhere down again at the next TakeOver pay-per-view. I'd be surprised if they have Joe drop the title. If they do have Joe drop the title, they'd probably be just like the Finn Balor situation, where he'll drop the title, he'll go for the title again, and then at the next NXT takeover or some other big NXT show there on Wednesday night, random Wednesday night, have another match, and then he'll end up coming to the main roster, because I can see him. They could put him there on SmackDown too, because right now I think I said this before. I think I said the paper or the podcast before either before or after the draft, that Samoa Joe, since they're so top heavy, there's so much star power on Raw, he would be a great fixture for the SmackDown brand, to really kind of balance it a little bit more on their brand. So far, with the shows I've been watching, in the last 2 weeks here, I'm really gearing towards the SmackDown side of it. SmackDown, even though they use those crane operated cameras and a lot of the shots there, which I still think is kind of weird. They're trying to do the same thing like they did in NXT when they had NXT as a kind of like a reality competition show. That didn't work so well. I won't be surprised if they get away from that here in the next couple of episodes. Because SmackDown's first pay-per-view by themselves is actually coming up here in about another 2 or 3 weeks here. So I see them doing some changes here. I have noticed a little bit of some changes here and there. I do like the whole smack talk after the show or in between segment, in between the wrestling and the backstage and the promos like that with Renee Young. I think that's awesome. It's something different we don't see from Raw. So it has its own identity to the show. Kind of like these, little break, these like kind of news, like promos, updates, and news updates in between the matches and promos like that. Which I think it's such a great idea, especially with Renee Young. She can be the secondary voice to that brand, and also, she I think it's perfect for her to be on there in that capacity like that. So another way of doing some backstage interviews in a totally different way than the traditional way of how they been doing the promos and stuff. Let's go ahead and move on here to, of course, like I said, the Revival taking on the Johnny Guerrero and Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT titles. I'm going to have to say the Revival, man. I'm glad to see them champions again, and I kind of wanted them to hold on to the title, but at the same time, I mean, Johnny and Tommaso, they've worked their ass off. They were randomly put together as a tag team, and it clicked and it works out. So that one I'm really kind of up in the air, especially with these glory bombs made from those guys. It's kind of got me like, man, this would be fun to see them as the tag team champions there in NXT. So we'll have to see how that goes. All right, now let's go ahead and go to the big show of the weekend, of course. That is WrestleMania, or excuse me, SummerSlam here coming up. It feels like a WrestleMania type atmosphere, and this is what I like to see them doing kind of matches like this, and they should be doing the same thing, to me, honestly, to the other two big pay-per-views they have of the year. Of course, the Royal Rumble, and then later on the Survivor Series matchup. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is because I'm a kid. I was a kid back then, and it was rare to see. Of course, growing up, it was kind of rare to see pay-per-views. Because when I did get them, I only got maybe a pay-per-view every other 4 months. I could get a pay-per-view, buy one or something like that at home. Or if I got lucky, I had a friend that could buy them every month. Got a chance to go watch over there, or more often than every other 4 months to watch them, I got a chance to go hang out with a friend on a Sunday night and watch pay-per-views with them live. But I think they need to hype these big four pay-per-views up a lot more. They do it for SummerSlam. They do it for WrestleMania. They need to do the same thing. I mean, yeah, I know it's January and it's kind of tough trying to get people excited about a big, huge pay-per-view matchup or anything. But, I mean, come on. The Royal Rumble's like one of your, like, besides WrestleMania, Royal Rumble is like the next one that's like, it sets up everything for WrestleMania. And of course, Survivor Series, you got a classic Survivor Series matches, but those now even become just not as big and important, and just not much like fanfare for those. I don't know, maybe that's just my opinion. I don't know how you guys think about it, but that to me, that's how how Survivor Series and Royal Rumble feel like to me. But yeah, one of the big matches, of course, is the match that everyone is talking about on social media, and especially in mainstream sports right now. And I know ESPN's been talking about it here quite often, and that is the Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton matchup. This match is 15 years in the making. If you guys don't know, I know a little bit about their history between the two. Randy Orton, in real life, Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar are really good friends. They're tight friends. They actually had a pretty good rivalry in OFW OFW, which is Ohio Valley, Ohio Wrestling, OVW. So Ohio Valley Wrestling. I'm trying to say everything like OVW. What does that mean? But yeah, the two of them had a really good matchup, or a really good rivalry there. Orton had a really good rivalry with Brock. He also had a really historic rivalry with the Prototype. That being, if you don't know, being no other than John Cena, who originally came to WWE. He was supposed to be that whole portrayal of this guy. When he first started out, if you watch the first episode, John Cena appears one of the, I think it was on SmackDown when he appeared. He made his debut. That was his attire. He was supposed to be this guy that was like the typical Prototype wrestler, but then weeks later that was kind of thrown out the door, and he just wanted to be himself, and so he wore what John Cena wears, which is those. Back then it was jean shorts and these random jerseys, which he had some really sick ass jerseys that he had there back in the day. I mean, there's some pretty tight ass jerseys that he has. I will give him that. He does have some style. Anyway, they wrestled and whatnot. They had some really good matches down there. I actually seen some of those even back during the day on the internet, and now you can watch those now still on the internet. They're on YouTube. But that's going to be a really good match. Of course, the mouthpiece of the beast, Mr. Paul Heyman, has been making some really, some big accusations there, some big, big time promises and guarantees to us about what's going to happen at that pay-per-view. And honestly, I don't see the point of Brock. I don't know why Brock wouldn't have to win this matchup for, because honestly, once you defeated the Undertaker at WrestleMania, what else is there to do? I mean, what else can you possibly need to accomplish anymore besides winning, the WWE Championship? I don't know. But I'm sure we'll know here pretty soon, as they will be fighting one-on-one there at the pay-per-view, and we'll see how that goes at SummerSlam. Why do I keep saying WrestleMania? Shit. I don't know, maybe because it feels like a WrestleMania matchup, but you'll see those two. Now, going on to what I mentioned earlier in the show, there is an issue right now between Brock Lesnar and another wrestler. It was said in the Brock Lesnar made I wouldn't say a threat. I guess he made a comment about Mr. Bill Goldberg, talking about back in what was it, WrestleMania? I have to look it up now. I can't remember which WrestleMania it was, but it was a WrestleMania where it was in Seattle. It was at Safeco Field. I think Safeco Field was just open about a good year into it, and they had to decide to have a pay-per-view, the WrestleMania there. And those two met one-on-one. I think it was at that pay-per-view, WrestleMania. I know they met at WrestleMania before, because originally that WrestleMania was supposed to be set up for, I think it was supposed to be a triple threat match. It was a time where Austin I think he got, we learned that he could not wrestle anymore. And it was supposed to be set up as a triple threat match between Brock Lesnar between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Goldberg to meet each other, because they were the two icons, the two faces of WCW and the WWE. And then Brock Lesnar was supposed to be thrown in because he was supposed to be the new face, the new look of WrestleMania. But that didn't happen, and eventually Brock and Goldberg eventually met with each other there. Of course, Lesnar, former wrestler for former national championship there in the collegiate level. He also played, he didn't play professionally football, but he tried out for a professional football team for the Vikings there a couple years ago after he left the WWE and tried to venture out to other things, and eventually went to UFC and became a champion there. Bill Goldberg, a former defensive lineman, for the Atlanta Falcons back in the day in the 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, somewhere in there. Played, had a pretty successful career and did quite well. But the two of them, there's been some jabbering in the jaws and stuff, and a lot of people are saying, "Hey, this is his WrestleMania talk, possibly," because Bill Goldberg is now part of the WWE 2K17 game where he'll be on there. You can play as him through the era that he was in the WCW and then, of course, in the WWE. So you have two versions of him in that game, and I believe it's a DLC. You guys can pre-order it right now through a lot of different places. But again, apparently Goldberg, he made some comments, and he was kind of teasing the idea of possibly could see a matchup between him and Brock Lesnar. It's not confirmed yet, but I know a lot of people will keep making these assumptions just because of Bill Goldberg, since he signed a WWE contract, and it's not a contract for him to wrestle. It's actually a contract to use his likeness and image and all that kind of stuff in video games and in posters and all that kind of stuff. That's what the contract is. Now, it's unyet said that if he's going to wrestle, but he's making it out to sound like he wants to take on Brock here for another matchup there. So, and honestly, I think it would be kind of cool seeing Goldberg back there and whatnot. A match I would like to see is Goldberg. It's actually Brock Lesnar and Sting. I like to see those two go at it. I think that'd be pretty interesting. Of course, the matchup everybody wants to see. It hasn't been mentioned or anything yet, but I know it's been mentioned since last year, and that's Sting and Undertaker. Everybody wants to see that matchup. I think that would be a match that I think a lot of eyes will be on that matchup there. All right, moving on here. Let's go into the next match, and this is so awesome. This is another great way of really promoting this pay-per-view, especially the way how they're doing it, because you don't see too many matches like this. I know the only people I can think of that were in these kind of matches were Booker T. He had a couple matches like this, and actually he had two sets of matches like this. He had one in WCW. I think he was a United States champion at the time, and then again in WWE, where he wasn't a champion. I think the other person who was in the matches like what I'm about to talk about here is I believe it was Chris Benoit. He was in some best of 7 matches. Yeah, best of 7 matches are so fun. Of course, they're going to come down to the 7th match, and each match is going to be more heightened than ever. The previous one I can think of that Cesaro's been in, I think it was a best of 3. And that was between him and Sami Zayn. They're in NXT when Sami Zayn first made his appearance there in NXT. So yeah, it's pretty cool that they're going to be having something like that here between these two. It's going to be between Sheamus and Cesaro. It'll be the first match of this likeness. I'm sure the other matches will be on the Raw program there throughout the weeks leading up to, of course, probably another match in their pay-per-view, because there'll be 2 pay-per-views next month, which is, I'm already like, oh my God, why are they doing this to me? They're killing me here when it comes to videos. WWE is going to have I think the first match or the first pay-per-view after this pay-per-view here coming up this Sunday, SummerSlam. They're going to have 2 pay-per-views every month, and they're going to be every 2 weeks. And SmackDown is going to be the first one to have their own. I can't remember what. I think it's Backlash. They're bringing back Backlash pay-per-view for SmackDown. So it's going to be a SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view. So it's just nothing but SmackDown superstars. And we'll see and then of course, then 2 weeks later, we'll see Raw have their exclusively own type of pay-per-view program there. So I'm sure that we'll see one of those. We'll eventually get to match like 3 or 4 there between Sheamus and Cesaro. But it's gonna be a good match. I really think it's gonna be a really good strength versus strength type of match. Let's go ahead and get to the next matchup here, and it's a tag team match. It's Enzo Amore and Big Cass going against Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens, or everybody's been calling Jericho KO. Jericho and Owens, the two Canadians going against the two Americans, the two Jersey boys there. It's going to be a good one. There's actually a video out there on YouTube of WWE.com where Enzo is trying to pick out his shoe that he's going to wear, his pair of shoes that he's trying to decide to wear at the SummerSlam event to, of course, stomp out Jericho and Owens. You got to check it out. It's a funny video. At first in there in NXT, I'm like, okay, these guys are so corny. They're so, like, geez, like, okay, I get it. Stereotypical kind of Jersey boys and whatnot. But, I've grown to love them, especially at NXT London, where they really put a great matchup, really good match there between them and the Revival. And that just made me even like them even more. Seeing those guys in that matchup there is going to be hilarious. On the Raw side, their main event, of course, is going to be Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. They'll be in the matchup there for the first ever WWE Universal Championship. We'll see that in action here, and we'll see. Actually, they haven't even shown what the title looks like, so that's going to be really interesting there to see. There are going to be videos up all weekend long. All the matches I've talked about so far and the ones I'm going to be talking about. They're going to be pay-per-view prediction videos all weekend long here on the channel. So look down. There's a link I'll leave a link there for you guys to go to those. Not to those matches, but a link to the playlist where you can go to watch the matches there on that playlist. Definitely check them out. It's a great play. It's a pretty good playlist. There's over 200 and some odd videos already on there. But you guys can scroll down to the bottom and there's all the matches there. There's one for NXT Takeover Brooklyn, and there's also one for the SummerSlam matchups coming up. So, yeah, Finn Balor promised that we're going to see a whole different side of him. We're going to see we're going to see the Demon King, as he calls himself, and we'll see if Seth Rollins can handle him. All right, John Cena and, of course, the soccer mom himself, AJ Styles, taking on each other in a one-on-one matchup there. Of course, AJ Styles wants to, let everyone know that AJ Styles is gonna beat up John Cena at this Survivor or the SummerSlam pay-per-view, and he's made some pretty good arguments there, saying that John, you got to do these things. If you lose, if you win, da da da, and so this is going to be the rubber matchup between these two, and we'll see who's going to win this one there at the pay-per-view. Also, let's go on to the SmackDown brand. You got the Miz and his wife Maurice taking on the one of the most exciting superstars I've enjoyed, and I have to say this. I was so glad that he was part of the NXT and definitely now part of the WWE universe, and that is Apollo Crews. He is stepping up. He is going to be. I guarantee he will be the next Intercontinental Champion there at that pay-per-view. That is a great venue for him to do so, and I can't wait to see him step up and be the next champion. Speaking of champions, we got Rusev, the Bulgarian Brute, taking on Roman Reigns for the United States Championship there for Raw. And there'll be a one-on-one matchup. Rusev says that he is the greatest United States champion. And so far, I will have to say I almost have to agree with him on that. As he has been stepping up here as late. He's had some pretty good matches. Of course, the whole fiasco with his wife and Roman Reigns and what he did to her. Well, he didn't do it to her. She fell into the cake and whatnot. I thought that was a pretty good segment there for Roman Reigns. And this is a good way to get kind of building Roman Reigns back up to that main event status after his whole fiasco with the whole steroids thing, and that's now going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up winning that championship there against Rusev. On the women's side, you got Sasha Banks going against Charlotte there. That's a rematch from their recent most recent match they had there on Raw. Just a week after the WWE draft show. That week or so, or a week before the draft, or a week after the draft, whatever it was, she won the women's championship. Sasha Banks won it and has been on a roll here as of late. And of course, the Queen, as she calls herself, of Raw, that being Charlotte, the longest reigning WWE and WWE Women's and / Divas champion of all. Or not of all time, but the reigning, she was the reigning champion at the time for the new era, I guess you could say. She is going to be in a rematch there with Sasha there. Of course, Dana Brooke going to be around the corner somewhere, and we'll see if she's going to get involved here, or if she's going to cause Charlotte to not regain the title, not get the title back from Sasha. So we'll see how that goes. And another tag team match here that I'm really happy to see here, and this also sets up for something we could see. We could see the Balor Club, or whatever they're going to be calling themselves, the club again, or something. But I can see Finn Balor and these two guys, Gallows and Anderson, possibly become the next tag team champions. As you know, they've been putting some pretty good promos here as of late, and especially the one with Big E being out because of his injury that he had by way of his testicles. Anderson and Gallows definitely showing why they are tag team worthy, the reason why they won so many damn tag team championships throughout the world, especially in New Japan, and hold on to those titles for quite some time. Until the last couple of months, they lost those titles, and now part of the WWE universe. They'll be taking on the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history, as we know of today. That being the New Day, got Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, and we'll see how those guys will fare in that matchup there for the tag team titles. I think this is going to be it for New Day. They won the titles back last. It's been over a year now. So it's time for them to give it up and give them up, and let's see what Gallows and Anderson can do. And then, of course, the main event of the whole night, especially for SmackDown, their pay-per-view, or for their roster, is no other than the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. The champion of that being Dean Ambrose going against Dolph Ziggler in a one-on-one matchup here. And, of course, lurking in the shadows and in the bowels of the arena there in Brooklyn, you have also a third guy that could be possibly involved in this match, and he's going to affect one of these two men, and that third guy being Bray Wyatt, and also his lackey Eric Rowan, the Wyatt family. I wouldn't be surprised if Bray Wyatt is involved in this matchup in some kind of way, in some kind of capacity, getting himself set up to be in the next chance or next opportunity to face the champion, regardless who it is. I do know for a fact that there is a good chance, this is my prediction in this video, that we could see the return of Luke Harper. I almost can put money on it that Luke Harper is going to return. He's actually it's been said that he's recovered from his injury, and that he could be making a pretty good return to the WWE after his injury there, and also setting up and helping out Bray Wyatt to become the next WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I wouldn't be also surprised to see him, if they're setting up Bray Wyatt for that title. I could see them setting up Luke Harper and Eric Rowan for the tag team titles. I think I've been saying this before in other videos that those two, what they did down in NXT and winning those NXT titles, and they actually held on those titles for the longest reigning there. I think they're still the longest reigning tag team champions. They well deserve it. They well deserve to be in the title hunt. That I thought by now they'd be tag team champions there in WWE in the main roster, but unfortunately that is not the case. And I wouldn't be surprised if they are the longest reigning tag team champions on the SmackDown brand. Even though that Bray, hopefully they'll bring him. They'll be able to sign him to a contract there on SmackDown, because right now he's a free agent because of his injury. He's actually named one of the top 5 hottest free agents right now for the WWE, as WWE do have some wrestlers who are currently out, are either out because of injury or out because of they're off doing vacation and doing other projects on other things. Nikki Bella is named one of them, The Rock, and then also Luke Harper was named one of those wrestlers there. And I think recently he was in an interview talking about his return. But I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up and helps one of those two men there for the title, so they can set it up for Bray and get him in the driver's seat there for the World Heavyweight Championship there on SmackDown. So, but that is it. That is the card for the pay-per-view. And let me know down below what you guys think of who's going to win what, who's going to win the match there that night there. Actually, on both nights there on Saturday or Sunday. But again, videos will be up for those all weekend long. I think starting at 10 o'clock Saturday, there will be a video out, I think every hour or every hour and a half or something like that here on the channel. And you guys can definitely check those out and leave your predictions down there below. And like I said, I do a simulation of it. I don't pick the winner. I just let the computer go against itself, and we'll see from there who wins the matchup. So we'll see how everything goes. There, some of the matchups that I sim there are actually pretty good. I can see them actually happen that way, especially with the Sheamus and Cesaro match. There, it was actually pretty funny. I'm like, wow, I would be surprised if that ends that way. But anyway. That is it for this week. Like I said, we're just going to talk about more. We talk about that Ryan Lochte issue, and then again with the Gabby Douglas thing. Hopefully, there's going to be some more craziness, or maybe if not, hopefully not, going on in the world of sports. Do you have any MLB news? Even though there's there's a lot of teams right now going for the trying to get in there because it's the dog days of summer, the dog days of getting to the stretch here of Major League Baseball, and I'm sure we'll have more races here coming up here for those different divisions. We'll get into more of that here in the next couple of weeks. We've got plenty of time. There's still quite a bit of baseball still left to play, but we'll get into more of that. Also, college football is going to be starting up here pretty soon. We'll actually have a bit of a possibly maybe a college football breakdown or look at it. Actually, I'm talking to one of my friends right now who is a big college football fan, and I might try to get him on here on the show. I don't know if we're going to be here. He's going to be here live at the studio or not, but in some capacity he is. I'm going to try to get him involved. Speaking of for buddies, at the top of the show I talked about going to a Kansas City Sporting game. Buddy of mine who's a big-time fan of them. He's been a fan of them since they changed their name from the Wizards to the Sporting KC. He's been to the championship game. He's been to a lot of the games there in Kansas City, Kansas. I've never been there before. I've been by the stadium several times when I do make my trips down to Kansas City to go visit with friends or just to go visit and shop and stuff. It's a beautiful stadium, and I'm going there this Saturday, actually tonight. So listen to this. I'm already there watching the game. I had to kind of pre-record this, like most times I do. I pre-record a lot of these podcasts and whatnot. But yeah, I'm actually pre-recording this a day early because I'm leaving. Had to go down there a day early. He's actually coming up to pick me up, and we're gonna go down to Kansas City and see the Sporting KC. I believe I haven't talked to him yet, and he's been kind of wondering. He's thinking about starting his own YouTube channel himself, and I'm kind of going down there. Besides to go see the soccer game, I'm going down there to go visit with him, and also trying to help him set up his own YouTube channel and how I do mine and all that kind of stuff. And I've actually told him about this podcast and everything, and I'm going to actually talk to him. We've actually been talking about possibly putting him on here on the show and doing this, not on a regular basis, but on, this will be his first time. This actually he'll be my first guest. Not the first guest I want, but he'll be the first guest that we'll have here on here, and he's really excited about it. We may actually, I don't know, depending on if the other individual that we're trying to get a hold of wants to be on there. It might come up later this week. I don't know, but it'll be the same. It'll be a podcast. It'll be the Sports Gamers Talk podcast. But it'll be a not so much of a formatted show like this is. It'll kind of be just random stuff we'll talk about together, the three of us. I'll kind of give you guys a background story of how we all met each other. And I'll give you a quick synopsis. We all met each other in college. We were roommates. And like I said, we're trying to talk to him about getting the third guy on the show and something we can do together. That's my phone. That's probably him. Nope, it's not him. But we'll try to set up something here, and I'm trying to maybe record something. Maybe it might be a quick, I don't know, well, this is already running an hour and a half, so it might be a 2-hour podcast. It might be one of those. It might be 2 hours. It might be 45 minutes. I don't know. It just depends on what the conversation will be. But we'll talk about sports, and we'll talk about mainly about sports. But we'll talk about probably most of anything local sports. We'll talk about Kansas City sports like the Chiefs, the Royals, and then of course you got your college, you got your Mizzou, Nebraska, and KU and K-State, maybe even Wichita State there, even some if we're talking about, especially in basketball. So we'll talk about that. And both my buddies, a lot of my friends are pretty knowledgeable of their sports and everything, but this is just a way where we can sit down and just shoot the shit and just talk about just stuff, and you guys can agree with this or not, but it's just entertainment factor. And I've actually been talking to him again about this several times here, and we'll try to get together and do something like this and just talk about sports and what sports they're into and why and whatnot. So just a way to introduce some new people here on the channel besides hearing just my voice all the time. You guys can hear another voice and maybe some funny stories about me and about myself and being in college and whatnot, because trust me, there's a lot of them. But and there's some stuff about them that I can tell you guys about them. So that right there is that could be coming up here later it could be actually coming up in the middle of this week, or maybe even the tail end of next week. As you know, there's always going to be something crazy going on here in professional sports. So thank you guys so much for listening and checking out the show this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. A lot of you guys have been giving me so much good feedback on the channel, especially on this series here. Thank you guys so much who have been listening and just listening to me just rant on some crazy stuff, and give me some good point of views of a lot of things that you guys that I haven't seen, or or can't see because I haven't lived in that, been in a person's shoes, and that's what this show's about. Seeing different perspectives of things, and having a comfortable conversation about sports and about what athletes go through and whatnot. So thank you guys so much for watching, and definitely thank you for listening to me. That is it for me, you guys. That is it for this week for the Sports Gamers Podcast episode 17. Stay tuned for more videos, like I said, all weekend long for the pay-per-views coming up, both the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn Part 2 and also for WWE SummerSlam 2016. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys for listening, and thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. As always, leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video. Please Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr, especially this weekend, as I'll try to get snapshots of the stadium and of maybe even some players. If I get lucky, I can take some snapshots of some soccer players, which I don't know who they are, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be something new, something exciting, and I can't wait to get into it. So, thank you guys so much. As always, keep yourselves healthy, and I will see you guys next time.